This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA.
Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Cal Lee Warrenshaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. It's wild and crazy as the NBA is in full swing and we're getting around to the holiday season. So the ante is being upped a little bit. Tensions are running high. Expectations are running high. But the game still remains the same. Let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my right-hand man, www.shawsports.net, Big Kahuna PNC. My brother from another mother, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw. Do you have the turkey ready to go in the oven yet?
We're doing a little bit different, my dude, but always, as always, salute to you and all the fans listeners of NBA Baseline and this Thanksgiving edition, I guess, so to speak. We're going to actually be doing a little seafood Thanksgiving. A couple years ago, I don't know if you remember, this is for our listeners who don't know that we are actually longtime friends and really like brothers. We went to our homegirl Nicole's house and had that seafood Thanksgiving in Philadelphia, Jersey area. I've been craving that ever since, man. So we're going to do that, create that tradition down here now with my new family, bro.
So instead of stuffing the turkey, you're going to be stuffing the lobster with the crab meat, right?
We talking lobster, crab, and scallops, and the whole nine. You know what I mean?
Garlic
like a little
crab
bowl and everything like that.
You know how they do
man,
that garlic crab, right?
Man, yeah, brother. We just came back from shopping a little while ago before we recorded today, man. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving, homie. What about you?
Man, I can understand now why the prices have been jacked up here for the seafood. So I see that there's definitely been a drought, probably because you guys down there done swiped up all the seafood. That's what's happening. So, hey man, it's beautiful though, man. We celebrate Thanksgiving not because of just the food, but we celebrate the that time of the year because we're giving thanks, for all the wonderful blessings, so to speak, that has been bestowed upon us. And family and friends get to gather around, especially during this time of the year, and partake in good vibes and good food. And if you're lucky, aside from watching the NFL, there may be some quality NBA games to be watched over the course of the weekend. And so while we're doing that, hopefully there will be two individuals from a certain family out by the bay that can kind of squash the nonsense that's been taking place over the last week and properly give thanks to the fact that they have bestowed that franchise two straight NBA titles and could probably get their act together for them to push forward for that third. So clearly, our topic of the breakdown is going to be talking about the situation with Draymond Green and Kevin Durant and how this actually affects the Golden State Warriors and their state of play for the course of this season and probably beyond. And we're gonna do our segment of the drop shot. What we call this? Our all surprise team is what
Yes,
you
sir.
call this? The AST Shaw's AST team. We're gonna be talking about dudes who have been kind of coming out of the woodworks and blowing our minds. You know what I'm saying? With posting numbers that we weren't expecting for this upcoming season. So we really got a great show for you on tap. Once again, be sure to get at my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA or get at me at Game Face Lead. The show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline, available on all the major platforms. Be sure to catch us on those platforms. Plug us in. Allow us to be your go-to resource discussing all things happening in the association. Major shout-outs to our peoples at Dash Radio. Catch us Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Your morning ride to get you ready for the NBA. All right, you know how we do, everyone. You know how we roll. It's time now for the breakdown.
Time to break it down.
Time now for the breakdown. Cal Lee Warrenshaw of the Baseline NBA podcast. And the main topic for the breakdown, the drama that has taken place with Draymond Green, Kevin Durant. Now, look, the Golden State Warriors as a basketball team, they're fine. Currently, as we're recording this podcast, they're a team that sits atop of the Western Conference. While they came fresh off of a very embarrassing loss to the Houston Rockets, I think a lot of people's wonderment about this team rests specifically on the shoulders of two of their starting players, one being an all-star potential Hall of Fame great in Kevin Durant, and really the emotional heart and soul of this basketball team, the guy who always wears it on his sleeve every single night. The how do I put this? The more rationalized Dennis Rodman of the basketball team, I guess you could call it. When I think about Draymond Green, this guy does everything for this basketball team. He's been a part of that core three that has helped this team win 3 championships over the last 4 years. And the incident that took place, if a lot of you people weren't paying attention to it, and you must have been under a rock. But of all of the things that have taken place, Shaw, I really find it interesting that at the height of this moment that we're talking about, a team that's in first place in the Western Conference, that they're this thing is being made out to be so much more than just two individuals who clearly just got on each other's last nerve, said some things that really shouldn't have been said, and then now have been projected to say this is the end of the line when we're talking about the Golden State Warriors. How do we get to this point?
I think in a lot of ways, Kevin Durant, has shown his true self over the last few years, and that's not to knock him. It's just to say he's not the same dude we thought he was.
All right,
So,
so wait, so
in
before you do that, because a statement like that almost leaves a blank check for anyone else to continue this vague interpretation. When you say this, when you say that he has shown his true colors, in what narrative are we bringing that story to light about when we talk about Kevin Durant? Break that down specifically from your
KD
perspective.
KD's not nice, and that is not to take on the moniker that the Nike ad had or the KCB. He's not like this happy-go-lucky dude who's trying to endear himself to anybody. He's going to go about his business the way he wants to go about his business, and I think there was just a false narrative of what he was previously. Again, as a young guy, great player, and just all about this, and he's still an amazing person doing great things in the community. And I think it's hard when we take that about any player. We want to put them on a pedestal in some ways, and we're quick to knock them off when something doesn't go the way we like them. But we forget they're still doing a lot of great things outside of basketball that impact lives on a deeper level outside of the NBA. But in terms of what he's what he's showing to us, as media type, so to speak, right now. He's tired of the media. He doesn't really like the media, doesn't want to deal with them. He's calling them blog boys and the whole nine. And that's fine. And that is fine. But in his quote unquote, how do I say this, his ascension in terms of trying to be more assertive, in terms of being control of his personality and kind of the narrative that he wants to put out there, he has alienated some, and has and again, it hasn't been the most exciting thing that we're used to, especially when KD the MVP speech, that we're a long way away from you're the real MVP, mom, and all those other things. Like, we're a long way from that right now. And that situation that happened at the end of that game, when he and Draymond, maybe it could have been avoided. I think he could have handled it specifically a different way. But then Draymond took it off. You know what I mean? He took it off the deep end with the way how he reacted back to KD when the exchange went down.
You bring up a lot of great points, and I don't even know whether or not this show is going to be able to house so many different directions that we can take this. But I'm going to stick to this first point that you're talking about with Kevin Durant and the evolution of Kevin Durant. I somewhat agree with you, but I'm gonna slightly push back on this because the thing that I think that makes me wonder about, with Kevin Durant, how much of this has been Kevin Durant evolving from what and when I say we, I'm just talking about the NBA culture, the community, the people as a whole have I guess laid the have kind of laid the groundwork to set the stage for this in what we're getting from a person like this, right? Like, I'm not saying it's our fault, but what I am saying is I don't know if whether or not I don't know if whether or not we have done a good job to disable what we're enabling from what Kevin Durant is showing us. Okay. And part of that, I'll go back to, listen, you brought up how this has kind of evolved of him being the nice guy, this, that, and the third. Let's remember when he was playing in OKC, that one of the writers at the Oklahoma had written an article about Kevin Durant in a way that projected that as if they knew Kevin Durant more than Kevin Durant knew himself, right? And a lot of that carried weight because of the fact that we look at a person like Kevin Durant and that basketball team, a team that went to the finals in 2011 and just got bested by the best player at the game in his ascension, right? In LeBron James, and he had horses next to him. That team was just too young to allow their talent to figure out a way to beat a better team in that sense. But I think that there's just been this stain that has just been on Kevin Durant's name. His anything that he does just never was good enough. And I think it got to a point that it kind of changes the way that he goes about doing his business. Now he's like, you know what? F everybody. This is me. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to be. And he's not going to apologize for that. And now everyone has got that, that after Thanksgiving turkey, you forgot to put it in a microwave, and warm the damn thing up, look on their face like, ugh, that's Kevin Durant. But let's not forget, look, were we not expecting this to not be the case? Have we not had this happen in our everyday lives when people just push you to the point where you're just going to be a certain way? And I just feel like while we need to bring this back to the whole situation with Draymond Green, what I'm seeing from Kevin Durant, I don't think would have necessarily surprised me any more than I see a basketball player who's been shouldering the weight of these expectations that I think way too many people have put on. And then the ones that he puts on himself now is just absolutely have come to a head. And now he's in a place again where this is going to happen. The only difference is he really just doesn't care. He really doesn't. And the stage is set for us to now get back to jump on him instantly because of what just happened in a game during a regular season, not a game in the finals, not a game where this may, change the course of the Golden State Warriors' future as far as getting to the playoffs for this season. This is something about now we're trying to push it down. Oh, well, this is now sets the stage. Kevin Durant is out. Kevin Durant, that's just how he is. And anyone who signs this dude, this is what you're going to have to accept.
Well, I think in some ways, I mean, he's controlled the way it's going to be, and I don't care if he's an a-hole or not. It doesn't make me any never mind one way and any of the other. But I think what it boils down to is there are still people who are like, well, they've seen kind of the tea leaves now and things that he's put out there himself, the way he's gone back and forth with some people on Twitter, and even having the burner accounts and things of that nature. All that just hasn't played into a positive image. It's just a different image than what was originally portrayed, and that's fine. So, but taking it to this incident specifically, Draymond made a bad play, and the way that I see it is like, all right, he got on Draymond for making a bad play. I don't think Draymond, and I'm not defending him in any way, shape, or form, but I think Draymond knew he made a bad play and was just like, all right, bro. But then KD would like kind of kept going at him. All right, I got it. Okay. All right. Oh, now you want to go? And then they started to really kind of go after each other.
Okay.
And again, it's just a matter about who. It's not about a matter of taking sides. It was okay. Well, could KD have handled it better? Sure. Could Draymond have handled it better? Hell yes. There's no doubt about it. But I think in this instance, there was an issue of leadership, so to speak, and that's why I think the Steph Curry factor is so important, because it's interesting that this happened when Curry was out of the lineup.
Wow. And then here we go again. Now you bring up some other great points with reference to this. Let me put it like this. I don't know if whether or not Draymond Green. This is really tough because people are gonna take what I'm saying as me saying I'm trying to blame Draymond Green, and I'm really not. But what I am gonna say in reference to what you just said, this pattern of Draymond Green making boneheaded plays, because let's just keep this real. What Draymond Green did was boneheaded. Okay? They had an opportunity to either call a timeout or you get the ball to Kevin Durant. Okay? He chose to run up the length of the floor. He wasn't even paying attention to anyone. He was just in his zone. And you know what? Look at the numbers for Draymond Green so far this year. And I don't know if this is a mental thing. I don't know if this is just him trying to work some things out. But across the board, Draymond Green's numbers are lower, even from last year when they won the championship. His turnover ratio is higher this year than it was last year already, right? And this is someone who, above anything else, when they didn't have Kevin Durant, Steve Kerr relied on Draymond Green to be one of the best ball distributors on that basketball team next to Steph Curry. And when I see plays like that, it almost makes you start wondering, where does Draymond Green fit in along the pecking order as far as the contributions being made for this team to continue to do what it's doing. And look, would I be crazy to think that maybe this could play a role or a part in the way that Draymond Green goes about doing things at times to a point where it becomes more of a detriment? Like, I'm not saying, again, this is not his fault. You can look at this team while they're winning basketball games, they do not look impressive. They don't look as all dominant. And we understand this is the beginning of the season. They got a long road ahead. But I'm just specifically looking at the way Draymond Green has been playing at the beginning of this season, Shaw. And I got to tell you, listen, if I'm Steve Kerr, I don't have a whole lot of confidence about Draymond Green's decision making at times during the games. And look, maybe that situation really stood out to someone like Kevin Durant, who's saying, yo, D, Dre, what are you doing? And I mean, Shaw, look at it from this perspective, man. His mannerisms, it really reminds you of what LeBron James did to J.R. Smith. And I mean, so when you take that into consideration and you look at what's been happening, Draymond Green has not been himself. Draymond Green has not been the Draymond Green, over the last few seasons, who's been an intricate part on both sides of the basketball. And if he's going to continue to turn the ball over at the rate that he is doing it, I mean, he is really going to be a detriment to this basketball team. And look, we can sit here and nitpick at each and every single situation that occurred during the scuffle that happened between those dudes, the spat, let me not say scuffle, but the spat that happened between them. But I'm just looking at what is manifesting, what happened at that point. And you can just basically look at Draymond Green's performance and just that particular moment, that particular time, just it wasn't a good look for him. And this has not been the first occasion. This is, to me, it wouldn't have warranted Kevin Durant to do what he did unless this is becoming a pattern. And for Draymond Green this season, it's become a pattern.
Well, and I can appreciate all of that, and I don't want to make too much of it. I mean, it's newsworthy because it's the Warriors, right? And it's two of their all-star players, one Hall of Famer, I guess, for sure, and then Draymond, I think, might be on the fence. Some people say he's going to be a Hall of Famer already. That's what it boils down to. I don't think this is going to break the Warriors, so to speak, but it does bring up the interesting question that everyone has had on their brain, whether or not this is the last run on this team. And let's go back to something else that was put out there. And I'm sorry I can't properly cite the source here, but when this news broke earlier last week, well, I guess last week by the time this airs right now, right? Something that said, listen, these are the type of things that David West, the OG, was talking about. He said that second championship was a lot harder than they anyone ever realized. I think it was on a Woj podcast or something like that, but he wouldn't go into specifics. Like, you don't understand the things we overcame to get this second championship done. And that signifies to me that maybe this team isn't as tight and cohesive as we would think it should be. I liken it to a lot in some ways to, like, even the Jordan Bulls. That team didn't love each other, but they got it done. Yep. You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference between, like, the organizational structure that the Warriors have and a lot of other teams has. They don't have to like each other to be great and to be good. They understand their roles and they kind of get it done. And that's why you see teams like the Washington Wizards right now in the crap hole that they're in, because they can't figure out a way to be better than themselves collectively, especially when there's chemistry issues in the locker room.
You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Subject of the breakdown as we're going through the drama between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant and the status that it leaves a team like the Golden State Warriors, who are vying to be one of those teams in rare air to get themselves 3 straight NBA championships. So one of the other elements to this storyline in the drama between Durant and Green, I found interesting, was an article that I saw in CBS Sports written by Michael Kasky-Blomain. So if you have an opportunity, definitely check it out. He had an opportunity to talk with owner Joe Lacob, and basically the owner wanted to kind of squash a lot of the speculation going on that Draymond's suspension was in a way helping to determine or pick sides, that they're choosing Durant over Green, and he wanted to quell that argument. And so when I think about something like that, I say to myself, yeah, that would have been fine if the Golden State Warriors as an organization had specified what went on and why you had to suspend Draymond Green. immediately after the suspension came down, not 3-4 days after the fact, where we have already thrown out, all of these different hypotheses about what has transpired, what may happen moving forward. And it's just interesting because this is the quote that Joe Lacob this is what Joe Lacob said to CBS Sports when asked about this, and he said, it never occurred to us. The point is, whether it would be an employee, they'd have to act in certain ways to be our employee. Draymond knows that he went beyond, won't say what he did or what he said or anything like that. He went beyond what we felt was appropriate, so it doesn't matter who it was. But the problem is that when something happens and you take action on it, if people are asking about it, that is your opportunity to provide specifics or specificity to what it is that you're doing to the situation and why you think that this remedy is actually what's required. And so to me, this was a missed opportunity for an organization that normally is ahead of the curve when it comes to this. This to me was a missed opportunity. You can keep it in-house, you could keep it in the locker room or whatever. But the problem is that this argument took place on national television. And the moment that happens, you cannot suddenly compartmentalize the disciplinary action from the egregiousness of what took place when it was in front of other people. Other people are going to ask. And I just think it was a missed opportunity.
So I think when it comes to the disciplinary phase of what happened, this is very much indicative of maybe the Warriors being a little tired of some of the things that Draymond goes through over the course of his career. And then now, exactly kind of you said, he took it over the edge in a lot of ways with those alleged comments, right?
And Draymond's been known
to, as I said,
unfiltered.
a little.
We know this, right? He's even done this on his own podcast. See, he's made comments and statements that have left a lot to be desired. For people to be like, did he not kind of go overboard? Did he not just put the Warriors or a certain player in a really precarious position now to have to address something that doesn't need to be addressed? It doesn't even need to go there to be addressed.
Yeah. No, but I think for me, it goes back to what we were talking a little bit earlier. KD was like, hey, and got on him. And I think it was the fact that he wasn't like, hey, next time, you should probably make that pass or whatever the exchange was. It was that KD kind of kept going after him. And to me, what it says is that Draymond had this kind of loaded in the chamber. So while it kind of bubbled over and was unnecessary, I don't think it was something that was just in the heat of the moment type of thing. I really do feel like Draymond was like, all right, for him to come out and say those kind of hurtful type of words and things out there, I think he really may feel that way, but maybe it's been masked just for the fact that they have been winning, and for the lack of a better phrase, it's been quote unquote all good. But as we also alluded to earlier, we know that it hasn't been behind the scenes. So Draymond was wrong for taking it there, and especially taking it there publicly. But again, I'm not going to let KD off the hook in this instance, because I do feel like in a leadership type of perspective, he could have handled it a little better. Could have hey, put his arm around him, like, hey, bro, what happened there? But for whatever reason, and again, there might have been about the game as well too, that maybe Draymond didn't pass him a couple different times, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But to me, both were wrong, but the organization definitely erred on the side of Kevin Durant by suspending Draymond, who's also he's appealing that suspension, not the suspension, the fine that associated the suspension as well too.
All right, but I'm gonna, I'm gonna jump on on Team KD side for a second. I agree that maybe in some respects Kevin Durant probably could have handled things differently, but I'll push back on this. Why should it be that Kevin Durant has to be cognizant of figuring out a way to finagle this properly to make it look right? When how many times have we seen Draymond Green get all up in Kevin Durant's chin? I mean, Kevin Durant doesn't have a peach fuzz anymore because Draymond Green might blow the hairs off. He's been up in his chin about numerous different scenario situations, whether it's on offense or defense. And Draymond Green is an in-your-face type of person. Everyone has accepted that. But if there's someone that I would push back on that idea, that premise is, if you're Draymond Green, forget about the free agency stuff. There comes a point where even that kind of quote-unquote coaching up gets a little tiring, that you as a person have to evolve in the way that you approach players and say things to players and things of that nature.
Well, I think the larger question is, what happens now? right? This event happened. Cool. Draymond was suspended and fined. Maybe not so cool. But what happens now moving forward? Is this something that eventually tears them apart? Is it something that was gonna? It didn't matter if it happened or not. If KD's leaving, I think one interesting outlier to all this is because there's so many people that think Durant is going to leave and go to the Lakers or to the Knicks or somewhere else, just not Golden State, right? I wonder then, does that open the door for a guy we haven't mentioned at all because he hasn't played a single minute for the Golden State Warriors? But does that open the door for DeMarcus Cousins now to potentially stay there long term if everything goes well? Now, again, this is long lens looking all the way down into May and June right now. If the Warriors win the NBA championship for the third straight time, does Durant say, "Hey, that's enough. Thank you so much. All right, I'm good. Got three chips rather. Now I don't need to deal with this anymore. I'm going to go somewhere else and try to do whatever." I wonder now then, because some money could potentially open up, do they then go and keep Cousins depending how the rest of the season goes? And those are things that I'm interested in because I don't think this is going to derail them from a championship in any way, shape, or form. I'm more interested in the long-term play of Durant, which I also think he may be leaving no matter what happens at the end of this year as well, too. Where do you stand on it?
I mean, show where I fall on it is I want to wait and see what happens. I'm not even thinking about what will take place at the end of this year. I want to see how this team improves over the next few weeks. This is a championship caliber basketball team, but they have not been playing like a championship caliber basketball team. And you can say, well, they're playing down to the level of their competition. I don't think it's about that. I just think it's about whether or not this is a team that is executing in the fashion that represents the talent that they put on that basketball court. And if the emotional output seems to be a hindrance to what that means or what that's supposed to mean, then we do need to look at this in a specific window, whether or not Steve Kerr can muster these guys to get beyond their emotional, quote unquote Drake all up in their feelings mental mind state, and just go out there and play the game of basketball that those guys are capable of playing. And I think if they're capable of doing that, this will just be a blip on the radar. But if this begins to fester, then I think it's gonna seed a growing concern about whether or not this is a team that can fully hold it together through the course of an NBA season where the expectations are that they should be hoisting a trophy rather than not, hoisting up, more uh, sound bites that levy the concerns about the breakup of this basketball team.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate goal, and that's what they will be measured by. I can almost with certainty say if they don't win this year, he's definitely out. If he wins this year, obviously there's a better chance that he'll stay to try to maybe finish his career or do whatever the case may be. Ends up happening in Golden State. So you're right; they have to win to almost give them a better chance at retaining Durant moving forward. Who I don't know, and there's been some crazy stuff out here. I mean, the Warriors faithful, some of them are already saying, well, Durant has, he did kind of jump on board, so to speak. And they side with Draymond because he has been there and homegrown talent that has gotten a lot further than a lot of people would have thought he would have expected him to at this stage of his NBA career. And there are people who are siding with Draymond on this. And when it comes to the two of them, who's going to stay or leave? They're like, hey, well, KD can go because they have done it without him. But I think that might be a little bit narrow-minded at this point. There's no question who the better player is. And I think that's what some people also don't like is that the Warriors organization kind of made their power of play in how they just handled and disciplined the situation because they sided on the side of the better player, whether he was right, wrong, or different. The optics of it don't look amazing, especially if you're on the Draymond Green side of it.
But you know what though, Shaw, and I'm gonna end my diatribe about this on this note. I don't care who you are, okay? And if you're Warriors fans and you're quote unquote Team Dre about this situation, you're in the wrong, okay? As far as I'm concerned, Draymond Green had no business bringing up anything regarding free agency, this, that, and the third in a game that involves you playing against the Los Angeles Clippers going into overtime simply because somebody was getting at you for something that you did wrong. Okay, that's basically like me bringing up stuff about your exes in front of your soon-to-be spouse, okay? Simply because you got at me for something I did wrong on a podcast. I don't understand where that even plays, right? It just comes out of nowhere and it has no business being involved. Now, if you're questioning a guy's heart, you're questioning whether or not a guy is really vested in playing and stuff like that. Even if you are going to bring that up, You should be bringing that up behind closed doors in the locker room, not where that's where the cameras are focused or that's where things need to be. And again, this is part of the problem that I'm talking about with Draymond Green, in the sense that even if you're saying, well, that's how he has to be, it doesn't mean he's got to be like that every single place he goes around, every single person that he deals with. And at some point, he is going to wind up alienating himself around people that he really does need the support of others, so he can basically make the cemented case that, listen, I'm one of the leaders on this team. I know what needs to go on. If I made a mistake, I'm going to let you know. And if I didn't make a mistake, you have no business getting up in front of my face about that. At no point do you see me bringing up anything about someone's financial status, contractual status, this, that, and the third. And these are the type of things that I think at times, even if you're a superstar or an underling, doesn't matter. There's a time and a place for everything. And if you don't carry it properly, this is what happens. It grows like a virus in so many other different ways. And again, I just reiterate the fact that if you are a fan, whether or not you're on Team Durant or Team Dre, this is not how you want to be playing this narrative. You need to be looking at how this basketball team communicates to each other, because that to me is the one thing that I think is going to be the weak link for this basketball team. If they cannot properly communicate to each other the way that it needs to be done for them to execute the way that they've always been executing the last 3 years.
Fair enough, and well said. I think, what remains to be seen with this Warriors team is what is the overall X factor moving forward. Does Curry come back and glaze it all over, and then it's all fine and good in terms of the basketball, despite whatever hurt feelings or intimacies people may have, amongst themselves? The main thing is, what does the product look like on the floor when it comes down to the rest of the regular season and what they do in the NBA championship and playoffs, rather?
You do know that it's not going to come down to Steph Curry bringing this all together, right? You know it's going to come down to Mama Curry, Mama Durant, Mama Green, right? As a matter of fact, I wish I had a camera for if they got anything going on around Thanksgiving time frame, because I want to see who gives the dinner blessing at the table. You know what I'm saying? Mama Durant probably the one that gives the blessing, but I'm sure that she's gonna be looking over Dre. You gonna say grace, honey? Because they're gonna need it, man, from this point moving forward. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie, Ward, Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. This was the breakdown. Time now for the drop. Callie, Warren Shaw, The Baseline NBA podcast. And this time around, the drop, all surprise team. The oh my gosh team. I cannot believe they're doing this right now team. The say it ain't so team, right? The shut your mouth, can't believe you're doing that team. My man Shaw has got a few players who have kind of surprised us this year, man. They've been balling. And they need their respects, man. We need to give them their just due. And one of them we usually clown on. Well, my man Shaw's got him on the all-surprise team nonetheless as well, too. So, Shaw, let's start with the backcourt combination of your all-surprise team, right? We got a front court, we got a backcourt. Let's start with your backcourt combination. You've got Derrick Rose and Rodney McGruder. Derrick Rose, I'm feeling. I like how you went with Derrick Rose. He definitely has surprised a lot of people, and really has been the glue for the Minnesota Timberwolves as they were going through that wretched transition with Jimmy Butler. Rodney McGruder, man, I'm surprised that you selected him. What about Rodney McGruder's play has got you sizzling on that pick?
I think with McGruder is just the opportunity that he's had to shine. I think on the Miami Heat lineup, has started all the games for them this year, despite who was healthy and who was hurt. Not a guy that anybody was really looking at coming into the regular season, just kind of supplemental piece. But here in the South Florida area, they really wanted to kind of hitch their wagon to him alongside Josh Richardson as potential two nice building blocks for this team. Guys who can play multiple positions out there on the wing. Ruder can handle a little bit, can play the two, can play the three. And Richardson kind of was playing 1, 2, or 3 for them at times as well too. But I think he's been a nice compliment for this Miami Heat team, shooting 43% from the 3-point line, 48, 46 overall. And I think that's been important for them. And he's contributing across the board, almost 14 points a game, 6 rebounds, practically 4 assists. Not something in terms of numbers of a role player that I don't think anybody was looking at. And you think, Rodney McGruder is going to be a guy out here who's going to be starting starting for a Miami Heat roster and playing meaningful minutes for them. Now, I will say this with a grain of salt. People still are yet to come back from Miami, so we'll see what his role is going to be moving forward. So the first 15 games have been pretty solid, but James Johnson is back. Dion Waiters will eventually be back as well too. Wade has missed a lot of time, with the birth of his new child. So, can he keep this up? But either way, he's been starting all 15 games for Miami, and I'm pretty proud of that fact for him thus far.
Basketball is one of those type of sports, Shaw, where if you come in and you need a certain number of basketball games to, I guess, instill the confidence of a coach to figure out a way to increase your minutes, right? Or to figure out a way to make you an intricate part of their rotation. And whereas like within football, it's kind of like one of those anomaly situations, right? Like a backup quarterback comes in, when the starting quarterback gets injured, he leads a team on a game-winning drive, and then the next thing you know, he carries that momentum over into next week, and he goes and he throws for 3 touchdowns, and then all of a sudden, the rumor mills come, media throwing out speculation: should he be starting moving forward? Did the starting quarterback lose his position? And it's interesting how you're bringing up Rodney McGruder's role, because Rodney McGruder to me is the kind of guy where, again, if you give him the number of minutes, I think is going to be very productive for you. And he's one of those versatile players, man. I mean, you ask him to do what he needs to, whatever you need him to do, guard a bigger body, get you some buckets. I mean, he's going to do those things. The unfortunate part is that, again, to your point, when you've got a number of different players who have been out for whatever their reasons are, how do you maintain what you've already given him, which is this chance and this opportunity, without making it seem like you're going to minimize other guys who are now just coming into the fray? The most unfortunate part about this show is that this is a team that's still under 500. So how much of an impact does Rodney McGruder's play when you look at it and say, okay, well, they're not completely winning because of him, but you know what? He's the reason why the Miami Heat, I was about to say Hurricanes, why the Miami Heat are only a few games, out of first place in that division.
But nevertheless, I think Derrick Rose's story has been very, very great, I think, for the NBA. Obviously, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had the Jimmy Butler drama surrounding them, and Rose was a nice distraction, especially that 50-point piece he dropped to kind of take some attention away from that and on some of the things that make the NBA great. And I'll be interested to see if he can be near this level for the remainder of the regular season. I think probably more like the 16-point per game range is probably where he can be, especially if you're going to get the 30 minutes a night and he can stay healthy enough to play 30 minutes a night. I think that's well within his range.
All right, so let's keep things moving on your all-surprise team, Shaw. As far as front court players go, New York Knicks, Alonzo Trier. He's been balling out of his mind, given the opportunity from David Fizdale. And when you see this kid play, Shaw, he represents a David Fizdale type player, which I think is important. If you're going to come into this market in New York, you are going to change the culture of how New York Knicks basketball is to be perceived. Fizdale needs some guys that emulate his style of what he wants out of his players. And I think, Trier represents that. And given what he's already shown the New York Knicks thus far, I think he's definitely going to be one of those centerpieces that he can utilize and bring up through the ranks, so to speak, that shows how much of a voice he has to some of the young players and their development process.
So at Trier, I think no one saw this guy coming. Regular season, definitely not. Preseason, we saw some signs like, okay, but would he really stick into the regular rotation for Fizdale, as you've alluded to? 11 points per game, just over that. Plays some good defense, at the wing position. Wasn't expecting him to be a factor for the New York Knicks. And Fizdale has gone the way of trying to develop some of the youth. Trier has good size at 6'5". Again, can play multiple positions at that 2 and 3 spot. Can complement Tim Hardaway Jr. Shoots a 3-ball decently at almost 38% per game. So I really do feel like this is a guy who is going to be here to stay in terms of a rotation player for the league, and especially on this Knicks roster as they struggle for offense in general. But more importantly, he's getting minutes because he is a big body and can help on the defensive side of things as well too. As we all know, Hardaway, while he's having a great season, isn't a great defender. So they need that defense out there that can help and give the Knicks and give Fizdale specifically what he wants from that side of the basketball.
Do you think Fizdale should lean on him even more or less?
I think what he's doing right now is acceptable. To me, there's obviously a guy who's not getting a run as a result of that, and one of my young sons, Hazonia, is not getting the run that I thought he was going to get on this team and this roster because of guys like Damian Dotson and Alonzo Trier. If you would have told me that was going to be the situation coming in, I would have laughed you dead in your face. But here we are. And Fizdale is to develop this young talent. And I think it's only a detriment because I think Hazonia is still a young talent. He's not in his 30s or anywhere near it. So it's interesting to see that this is a route that they decided to go. But again, they still have the Kevin Knox on this team, who they're obviously he's key and first and foremost in terms of people they're trying to develop. Mitchell Robinson at center position, who they're trying to develop. So I think Scher's going to fit right in there. While he's on the two-way deal. Barring anything unforeseen coming into play, like maybe Porzingis coming back and making a whole lineup change for this New York Knicks team, I think Trier's going to be there pretty much to stay and getting some in that minutes in the 25 to 28 minute range for the rest of the regular season. At least the way it's going right now.
All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and talk about another front court player who is had your eyes jumping out your sockets. Out of Toronto, Pascal Siakam. Love that last name. So what about Siakam? Has you and I'm actually surprised that you're surprised
that he's doing it in the minutes that he's getting. Whether Kawhi is there, whether Kawhi is not there. And to credit Nick Nurse for changing the lineup some. Siakam is not the one who's being impacted whatever happens. Whether Valanciunas is out there starting or whether Ibaka's out there starting, it doesn't matter. Siakam is going to be right there next to whoever's starting at the center spot, and his ability to be mobile, to actually dribble the ball and cut and get to the basket, I think is something that we didn't necessarily expect, especially with him being kind of a slender four. Didn't really know he had the wiggle and the bounce that he does. And I think it's been eye-opening to see a little bit, at least for me. There was some question whether or not when they traded DeMar DeRozan, what the supplemental parts should have been. And some people were like, oh, how did the Spurs not get OG Anunoby? How did this, but I guess Jakob Poeltl was decent enough. The Siakam crowd wasn't as loud, in terms of what the Spurs should have been trying to ask for. But I think the Raptors knew what they had in this guy, and they weren't going to throw him into this deal. And look what he's doing now in his nearly 29 minutes a night. 14 points, almost 7 rebounds a game, 2 assists, getting a steal and half a block. Not turning the ball over too much as well too, and shooting a very high percentage of 61%. This is a guy who I'm very proud to see that he's capitalized on opportunity in this early season for the Eastern Conference best team.
All right. So finally, Shaw, who you have listed on your all surprise team. This guy has been nominated for other teams, but definitely not teams that bode positivity. But listen, he is a champion now, and he believes that this is his time. And he's certainly making the most of it, playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, playing next to LeBron James. JaVale McGee has been doing phenomenal things. Actually, he's been playing kind of like the phenom that we all thought that he probably could have been. He's somehow, making the most of his play. His best play is starting to show, as he hits his 30s moving forward, as he's getting on that end, of his career, which to me, I think is great, because it really shows much more about his evolution, his maturity as a player. But you have JaVale McGee listed as part of your all surprise team.
To say that McGee is going to be impactful to begin the season, I think it was just a customary. I think we thought in a lot of ways he was going to be a space filler at the 5, and LeBron would play more 5, or Kuzma would play some 5, or even Zubac would finally get out there and play some. And McGee has commanded that position, playing the second most minutes or third most minutes of his NBA career right now, averaging a career high on nearly 14 points per game, shooting his best field goal percentage of his NBA career outside of I think the couple games he
Shaw,
had
he's
with
Shaw, he's playing so good that it forced the Los Angeles Lakers to go out and have to get Tyson Chandler off of waivers. Not to replace him, but to help bring down some of the minutes. I've never heard that. I haven't heard that ever since in his career. Okay, so that's some
yeah,
craziness right there.
and they want to keep him fresh, and I think that has been something that has been, he's had some injury issues here and there throughout his career, but he's commanding his role, and I think that's the greatest thing. And that time in Golden State, obviously we talk about them at length earlier in the show, but that seems to have helped him in his overall maturity, what it takes to win, the effort he needs to put forth. And Luke Walton, LeBron, and company, they're putting him in a great position to be successful. He's not pouting. He's just going out there and doing what he needs to do on a regular basis. I think the big thing that you can say about this for him is, while the points are amazing, that's great. He's also averaging a career high 2.7 blocks per game in the 25 minutes. And this is for a team that lacks defense and needs some sort of shot blocking presence in the interior. He's been a godsend. Almost 3 blocks a game right now for McGee in 25 minutes. That's absurd. So shouts to McGee for doing the best he could do. And now Tyson Chandler's out there to kind of give them a different look, but maybe not as springy as McGee is currently, but he can still play some great defense. So the Lakers are doing the right things to shore up their interior defense. But again, I really am proud of what JaVale McGee has been able to accomplish in the young part of the season.
All right, Shaw. So before we end off this segment, do you have any honorable mentions, guys that have surprised you, that should have been well deserved, but just didn't quite make the squad?
I think you could definitely survey the league, and pick out a handful of guys who are just like, wow, that's nice to see that they're doing that. I think this team, for me specifically, it was just, all right, what did I expect to coming into the season to what we're getting right now? But unfortunately, a guy like Harris LeVert, I think we obviously we highlighted him earlier in the year. Didn't expect him to quite be as good as he was and as he showed, for the Brooklyn Nets thus far. I don't want to say, I don't want to pick on rookies because I don't know what the overall expectation was for them in general. But I think Wendell Carter Jr. from the Chicago Bulls has surprised me a little bit too, in terms of how well he's acclimated to the NBA game. And outside of that, I think, for me, De'Aaron Fox, again, second year, didn't expect the leap that he's taken, high draft pick. So I don't want to put him out there in that way and say it's a surprise, but again, he's taken a bigger leap at this point than I thought he was going to at this stage. I even had drafted him on a couple fantasy teams. I was like, oh crap, I didn't realize I had a gold mine in him, the way I did. So, those are a couple guys I think that stand out to me in terms of, that they're pretty surprising for me. What about you? Any kind of diamonds in the rough out there that you've been watching and surveying?
So guys that I would have to make honorable mention, and listen, the Milwaukee Bucks are one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. It would be hard pressed for me not to throw a guy like Eric Bledsoe in there, because I really wasn't expecting him to vibe the way that he has been vibing with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. 15, 6, and 4.5. To me, it's just really impressive for someone that I really felt like is on the downside of his career. And I really think that what he's doing this year is helping the Milwaukee Bucks be one of those top 3, 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. If he continues to play this way, knock on wood that he stays healthy, you know, you got to make the Milwaukee Bucks a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference, even, with the gameplay of Giannis and Chris Middleton. I mean, it'll make them that much more dangerous if you're going to get these kind of numbers from Bledsoe on a nightly basis. Out in Atlanta, Taurean Prince, man, he's really surprised me. He stepped up and he's really played some quality basketball. Given the situation that's going on down there, I just really find that his game has just been well played as they go through that type of transition. He's certainly a person that you want to watch for. You know, I'm sure that the Atlanta Hawks are going to have plans for this kid, but I think he's going to be a solid player. He's a great two-way type of player, and I think he has a lot more upside offensively, and I think he's getting some opportunities there. Um, Buddy Hield out of Sacramento, Shaw. How come we not talking about this kid? The guy's averaging about 20 points per game. And listen, the Sacramento Kings might not, be able to maintain what they're doing. Right now they're just at 500. So that they've been slipping and sliding a little bit. But the combination, to your point, of him and De'Aaron Fox, that's, if you're Jaeger, man, you got to feel good about that. The guy's shooting the basketball better. He's playing a lot better. He's playing with a little attitude to him. I like Buddy Hield. And then finally, my consolation prize, I'm gonna give it to the whole damn Memphis Grizzlies basketball team. And this is a basketball team, Shaw, that we thought was just gonna probably be one of the worst teams in the NBA. And somehow, JB Bickerstaff has gotten this basketball team to play above 500 basketball. They're better than the Houston Rockets. They're better than the New Orleans Pelicans. They're one of the top teams in the Southwest Division. They're actually almost up there with the San Antonio Spurs, right? So, listen, they really would be my all-surprise team, point blank, period. You know what I'm saying? Just given how they have come out the gate and have competed on a nightly basis. And while everyone's going to be talking about Jaren Jackson as the future, the fact that Bickerstaff has gotten productivity from Gasol and Conley and the rest of them boys and has made them a legitimate basketball team to be competitive in that type of division and in that conference speaks volumes.
Well, I won't disagree with any of that. I think the whole Sacramento team, I could have put them on the list as well too. When I made the team, I thought about Buddy Hield. I thought about even Willie Cauley-Stein as well too, as I mentioned, De'Aaron Fox as well too. So I think that whole Sacramento team is interesting. But it's the caveat to all of that is that we get a report over the weekend that Jaeger is not necessarily in trouble, but there's some questioning him in the front office about, is he playing the young guys enough? And I think at least I was concerned about, okay, what's going to happen with Harry Giles and Skylar Bicier, and Marvin Bagley? How would that combination kind of work together? And they haven't really played that much, except with the exception of Bagley, because Bjelica's come out there to give them some spacing on the floor. And apparently Sacramento ownership is like, well, what about our young guys? Then why'd you sign Bjelica if you didn't want to play him? It's a very interesting situation because Sacramento has been better than been expected, but yet you got a Kings, The Kings are always going to Kings. So even when things are going well, there's something in the background that's looming over them one way or the other. It's crazy.
I tell you, man, it's great. But listen, this is why the NBA is just moving the needle again and again and again and again. There's certain nuggets within the game itself that stand out. And Shaw, you hit it right on the mark. That's why they're on your all-surprise team. You're tuned to The Baseline. Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. And this was The Drop.
Coast to coast. Coast to coast.
Time to go coast to coast, discussing the news in the association. You ready to rock and roll, Shaw?
Absolutely, man. Let's ride.
All right. Carmelo Anthony's parted ways with the Houston Rockets. Is this the Boyz II Men version of us singing The End of the Road for Carmelo Anthony?
He'll catch on somewhere, at some point during this regular season. Don't know where that is right now.
That'll be before we bring back the New Jack Swing, right?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe in the case of Carmelo, but he is going to stay mellow. The Houston situation didn't work. I think the one good thing you can say about it is at least amicably it's ending, and they're going to find a resolution at some point. He can't be traded until mid-December, so we'll see if they end up buying him out or they just kind of let him hang out until he can work something out maybe with his agent and figure out another route to go. But that didn't work out for him in Houston.
Where would you like to see him? If we want to see Melo play, where would you like to see him?
I don't know if I don't like any situation is like where can he potentially be useful. It's always going to be about his mindset, where can he go and understand the role that he's going to play. He doesn't want to go to a bad team where he can just jack shots. He's not really going to sell tickets for a bad team as well too. So I don't think that's what's in play. You do wonder though, if I'm going to throw a team out there and they're a good team, ironically, I wonder if Portland would have any interest and bringing him back over or bringing him there as they had interest, 2 years ago now, I guess, or last summer, I should say. And maybe he could go there and fill that small forward position. I don't know. Maybe that's the spot. Maybe even Utah, if he's willing to play some power forward. He in a combination with Jay Crowder, I think would be interesting for Utah. But these teams, I don't really see any right now that make a lot of sense. At least the ones that actually could win. I think if you want to just go out there for shits and giggles, you can throw him into that Washington Knicks and see if he can play a Paul Pierce type of role, just to see what's going on out there and make that even more convoluted than it already is. But that's just me being an a-hole. So I'm not going to say the Wizards for real, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, don't let some of our Wizard listeners hear all that kind of talk, man. You might catch that flack like I did a little while ago, like earlier back in the month. Out in John Collins, he's set to make his debut. How important of it is Collins, setting foot out there for the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, nice 12 points, in limited minutes. Didn't grab too many rebounds. I think he had two boards in that time. But the Hawks just need to see what they have and the combination of Young and Collins and see what that can potentially look like moving forward. Young is starting to struggle here a little bit. The road trip was rough. Didn't really find his shot, and at least the ending part of it of Will too had a couple games under double-digit scoring. So hopefully Collins can give him another target and space the floor for him, or Collins can be a threat down low so that Young can also space the floor on the outside. And what can do so. I'm happy John Collins is finally going to be back.
All right, out in Milwaukee, John Henson, man, I tell you, I don't know what happens to this kid, man, but it's just certainly not a good situation. He's going to miss the next 12 weeks with a torn ligament in his wrist. You could probably make the argument that he was kind of finding his niche, his role under Budenholzer, but this kid, he can't stay healthy, man, and it's another piece, winds up getting sidelined for the Milwaukee Bucks. And if there's one thing I will say about the Milwaukee Bucks that does kind of worry me, is the depth of their lineup, and they can ill afford to lose pieces on that roster, because every one of them at some point has been susceptible to injury, with the exception of Michael.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame. And Henson had started to evolve his game by shooting that corner three a little bit, and Milwaukee was really rolling. So they don't have a whole lot behind them as you alluded to, but I guess it's an opportunity now for Thon Maker to kind of step out there and see what he can do with the minutes that Henson's going to miss for the next 2 to 3 months here.
All right, finally, LeBron James, he finally moves into 5th place. But, it took him so long to do it. He moves into 5th place in the all-time scoring list ahead of Will Chamberlain. God rest his soul, Will Chamberlain, one of the all-time greats as always. But, hey, if you're going to get moved, you got to get moved by something greater, and that's the force of LeBron James.
Yeah, I guess he's got Mike in his side potentially for this later on this year. Shouts to LBJ, man. Just continue to do it big. Got the Lakers actually winning some now as well too. But we all know that this guy, he's an all-time great, and just a matter of how far up the ranks can he go. I think Kareem's going to be a little bit out of reach, but you just never know what LeBron, man. He's still defying time and age at this stage of his career. 16 years in, or 15 years in, and just again still doing the damn thing, man. So shouts to LBJ, brother.
Most definitely. And listen, man, wonderful show. All things considered, man. Some great content to throw out there. And we definitely want to hear from our listeners. Who would you like to see as part of your all surprise team, right? Like, who out there has been, and listen, I know we might hear from some of our people that got their fantasy leagues going. We're just talking about just a pure appreciation for the game. Guys you have not seen flying under the radar or going out there and just doing the damn thing. Let us know. Hit us up on @NBA Baseline and let us know who do you like to see as part of your all surprise team. Awesome show, all things considered, Shaw, man. And listen, while everyone would love to see the demise of the Golden State Warriors, you know me, I'm a stickler for teams that want to be true dynasties. And if this team is as great as we all make them out to be, then that greatness will shine through, and this will just be another blip on their radar.
Yes, sir. Well said, man. Carl Bullock, our social media guy, he's definitely going to be putting out the tweets out there too to try to get the conversation going as well too. But make sure, as Kyle alluded to, let us know who we missed. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your picks of people who've surprised you thus far, during this NBA season. We're 15 to 17 games in, man. So amazing show. Hope the Warriors drama settles down, or maybe it doesn't, so we can have some more stuff to talk about moving forward. But as you alluded to, man, I love the NBA, and again, happy Thanksgiving to all our fans, listeners, homie.
All right, for the Baseline, Kyle Lee, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys. We do. Catch up with you